We've all seen the headline, Lazarus raised from the dead. Sometimes a familiar story keeps us from going deeper and learning new lessons. You might be getting bogged down with your Bible study of John, marking lots of key words and ending up with a confusion of colors. I decided I would simplify this week and only mark a few words. I started by marking Lazarus, and I decided to ask the question, what am I learning about the relationships in this story? You can see how this color now stands out. Then I went back and made a list of what I was learning about Lazarus. And what impressed me most was the special relationship he had with Jesus. I pondered words like this: the one you love, verse 3. Verse 5, Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, each one individually. Verse 11, our friend Lazarus. I then cross-referenced and remembered the story about Jesus going to the home of Martha. It says in Luke that Martha welcomed him into her home. The three siblings lived in a small village that was very close to Jerusalem. I just love this picture of this relationship that Jesus had with this family. You know, warm hospitality in our own homes is a wonderful way to get to know people. You see them in your home in a safe place, and they see you in your natural surroundings. We don't know whether Lazarus actually followed Jesus around like his other apostles and disciples, but obviously Jesus knew him well and cared about him. He called him friend, the one I love. So I see this home of Martha's as being a refuge for Jesus, a safe place away from the crowdedness of Jerusalem or the dangers of the Pharisees who wanted to kill him. He went there often, and we know that he stayed in that village the week before he was crucified. You know, I'd like to have my home be a safe haven for others, a warm welcome. As I continued to look at the markings of Lazarus in my Bible, I could see the story clearly. In verse 14, Jesus speaks plainly to his disciples. Lazarus is dead. And he had been in the tomb 4 days by the time Jesus arrived. It seems hopeless. And both Mary and Martha are so comfortable in their relationship with Jesus that they sound like they're rebuking him when they say, Lord, if you had been here, he wouldn't have died. Well, that's faith, but that's also seems like a criticism. But it shows the close relationship they had with him. True discipleship does involve being able to speak your feelings to one another, to correct and rebuke each other. Jesus does not rebuke Mary and Martha at this time. He understands what they're going through, but he does take time to teach them. I next marked the references to Jesus in the color red. I didn't mark every single pronoun, but I marked the main words. And what I saw was that right from the beginning in verse 4, Jesus had a plan. This sickness is not to end in death, but for the glory of God. We know there was danger in Judea. The Pharisees wanted to kill him, and the disciples understood that. This village of Bethany is only about 1.5 miles from Jerusalem. But Jesus says, I will go so that I can wake him up from sleep. And the apostles thought, well, if he's sleeping, that must mean he's recovering. So then Jesus had to tell them plainly, Lazarus is dead. And more than that, Jesus says, I'm glad I wasn't there to prevent him from dying. Wow, why did he say that? He has a plan to strengthen their faith and give God the glory. And we know at the end of the chapter that Many people believed in Jesus after this miracle. You know, we just don't know the bigger plans that God has for us when we go through hard times. I have a friend who lost her teenage daughter to cancer. She still grieves after many years, but she told me that at the funeral, there were so many hundreds of teenagers, and many of them came to know Jesus. I also have a friend suffering from Parkinson, and the peace and the strong faith that he has carried over the years is a light to his family and to his friends. I observed other things as I looked at the color red Jesus and these verses, and he is teaching an important lesson to all of us. In this Gospel of John, we see the connection between Jesus and life over and over again, so that we have no doubt life is in Jesus. He's the source, he's the giver. And this sign confirms that. Verse 25 is the key verse. Jesus is challenging both Mary and Martha to believe that he has power over death. I am the resurrection and the life. I am the life. He who believes in me will live even if he dies. And Martha gets it. She doesn't know what he's actually going to do that day, but she declares that he is the Christ, the Son of God. And that is her foundation for hope for eternity. And that is the foundation for hope for us as well. It is all about who he is, and he holds the keys to life and death. So when someone we love dies, we can still have hope. This sign, this miracle is only in the Gospel of John. And it's just before the end of the chapters about the crucifixion and the resurrection. It's at a key place in the life of Jesus, in a time when he's really concentrating on teaching his disciples. Jesus could have just spoke the words from a distance, but he lets Lazarus stay in the tomb for 4 days. There is going to be no doubt that Jesus has power over death. And it should be a reminder when he himself goes into the tomb for 3 days. The next thing I observed was the emotions of Jesus. He saw the sorrow. He saw the weeping people, the friends of Lazarus, and he was deeply moved in his spirit. In the ancient Greek, this phrase literally means to snort like a horse. It implies anger and indignation. Jesus was angry and troubled at the destruction and the power of the great enemy of humanity, death. Jesus would soon break the dominating power of death. And then we have verse 35. He wept. And this means literally tears coming from his eyes, even though he knows he has a plan. So you can ask yourself, why did he weep? And do you know that he weeps with you when you have sorrows and griefs and troubles? He cares so much about each of us that he is troubled in his spirit when we grieve. Recently, I had a friend die of cancer. She was a Bible translator in Papua New Guinea for over 30 years. She was serving God, and suddenly she just died. I cried for her husband, who would have to continue on with the work alone. I cried for her children, who will be raising their children without their mother. And I cried for myself as I thought about the shortness of life. This world is full of pain, but Jesus understands, and he has a plan. Think about how Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. He had to restore the decaying flesh. He had to put through fresh blood. He had to make that heart begin to pump again. He had to loosen up everything and make the whole body work. And it was all by the power of his word. You know, this reminds me of how he gives us new spiritual life as well. We are crucified with him, and we now live in the flesh with a new life through faith in the Son of God, Jesus, who gave himself for us and who cares for us. We have new life. The last words that I marked in this chapter are "so that." I put a line and an arrow to show that thoughts are connected. It's a chain of consequences that are building up in the story. And it shows that Jesus is totally in control of the details. Verse 4, this sickness is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified in it. Verse 11, I go so that I may awaken him out of sleep. Verse 15, I'm glad I was not there so that you may believe. Verse 42, Jesus prays to the Father so that they may believe that he sent him. Verse 45, therefore, another "so that" kind of word. Many believed in him, which explains why there are so many crowds at Palm Sunday, which is coming in the next chapter. Verse 47 through 53, therefore, the Jews planned to kill him, which is shocking. He just healed and raised Lazarus from the dead, and therefore they want to kill him? We'll be talking about that more next week. This last sign is so powerful. It should give you and me hope, and it should also reveal the very heart of Jesus. Remember, the Hebrew name for Lazarus is Eleazar. God helped me. My questions this week. What is the message of this chapter for you personally today? Hospitality, fear of death, relationships, faith? Number 2, in what way has God used sickness in your life or the life of another to bring someone to himself? And here's an action challenge. Who needs to hear this story? Go and tell it.